I knew my ex for almost 10 years. We go back all the way to high school and have been friends. After we graduated, I said screw it and asked her out, and we became a couple. We dated for almost 6 years before she came to me and told me she was pregnant. I won't lie, I loved her at the time and this was actually quite exciting to me, so I proposed. She, however, seemed super worried. I sat down and talked with her about it. I told her that even if she did decide to terminate the pregnancy, I would be by her side and still wanted to marry her. She was super awkward about it but decided to keep the child and accepted my proposal. These past 7 months have been a roller coaster. She moved in with me and we began getting ready for our daughter's birth, and we were planning on getting married after she is born. That was until a few weeks ago. An old acquaintance from high school reached out to me. I was never good friends with him, but he said that he felt guilty about letting an innocent man suffer for his and my ex's mistakes. This guy claimed that he was the father of my ex's child and that my ex had been lying to me. It turns out that my ex and him got reacquainted about a year ago and started having love. Around the time my ex got pregnant, they began having unprotected love. He is not lying about this. He sent me photos of them together and showed me texts between the two of them. I was able to get my ex's phone and confirm they were real. Along with this, he sent me a string of Facebook messages of my ex admitting to lying to me because I make more money than the real father and she would rather I care for it. Suffice to say, I was freaking pissed. I confronted her, she cried, I cried, it was a mess. In the end, I broke it off then and there and evicted her from my apartment. She's in the process of moving out now, but I have not said a single word to her. I have pretty much told her that I want her out of my life. I also demanded a DNA test the minute the child is born. If it is mine, I'll help her support it. If not, then I am never seeing her again. I've been cold to her. Her and her parents has tried multiple times to work it out with me, but I've refused any contact with them. At one point she got all of her friends together to try to talk to me and I kicked them out of the apartment with threats of calling the police. Anytime she's tried to reconcile, I've shut it down. My friends are saying I'm in wrong here. According to them, she's pregnant, and because of that I should at least be helping her till the baby is born, even if it isn't mine. I disagree fully. But I could be wrong. Am I letting my own emotions hide the fact from me that I'm an idiot? Not the idiot. Your friends sound like idiots. They should help her out. You need to know whose kid that is because it impacts your obligations and future with this woman who violated your trust like that. Even if you never get back together, you'll still have to deal with this woman if you want to be involved in your kid's life. If the kid is not yours, you won't have those obligations. This information changes how you move forward with this lady massively and is of utmost importance. The only thing I'll say is that if the child ends up being yours, please try your best not to let your emotions with this scenario affect your relationship with the child. They are innocent regardless. Should you end up having a relationship with the child if they are yours, and not just supporting them financially, do everything you can to separate your feelings about the mother from your feelings about the kid. You aren't throwing her out with nowhere to go. Besides, she did this to herself. You'd be wise to not treat her parents bad though. They did not do anything to you, right? And if the kid is yours, it's in the child's best interest not to have you and her grandparents hating each other for no reason. I find it hard to believe all these people know of what she did and still side with her. Maybe you need new friends, man. Yesterday was my 28 parents' 25th wedding anniversary, and because it's a golden year for them, they had planned a special dinner at a very nice restaurant and invited everyone in the family, including my wife, 27, and I about a month in advance. Initially, despite my wife just giving birth to our twins a month before the invite, we decided that we would just get a babysitter so that we could attend. However, my wife's mother passed this past Tuesday, and although we knew that cancer was making her very ill and that this say would soon come, my MIL death still shook my wife's world. It was just her and her mom growing up, and they were the closest you could get, so it's safe to say that my wife has had one hell of a week, dealing with her mother's passing, making arrangements, and raising and nursing 2 infants. So on Thursday I had informed my parents of the unfortunate tragedy and told them how hard my wife was taking it, and I apologized and told them that I didn't think we could make it because my wife just didn't have it in her to go out. At this point my wife couldn't even open her eyes without crying. They did the usual "oh, we wish you could both be here," but assured me that they understood and wished my wife healing. I went to drop off their gift Friday morning and nothing but well wishes were said to me when I went. However, yesterday night, I received 3 voicemails from my mom crying, saying how she couldn't believe that I chose my wife over them and how she was disappointed, and if that was the case then she didn't want to be in the lives of mine, my wives, or our kids. This shocked me in all aspects, and I tried getting a better understanding of what was going on, but whenever I tried to call my parents, I was met with hostility and negative comments. I love my parents, but I love my wife more. My wife is my other half and she needed me. To me, staying with my wife and caring for our children was the right call in that situation. Was I wrong to have assumed it was the right thing to do? Not the idiot. I'm sorry for your loss. Your parents/mother's reaction doesn't really make sense to me, and I'm wondering what happened on their end to explain such a change of reaction. Obviously, a death in the family takes precedence over anything else, and your duty to your wife is extremely important, so it seems weird to me that your parents would choose to add to your grief by treating you like this. It strikes me as emotionally manipulative and straight up abusive. Have they done other things like this in the past? If so, you need to be careful. You did the right thing. Your wife has had a major loss at a time when she is likely still dealing with some level of hormonal baby blues, PPD, and exhausted from caring for twins. She needs you by her side. Your mom was being selfish with her calls. You should probably let the emotions sit. Give some space, and then write to your mom informing her that while you love both she and your wife and children, this is not a competition of love. Your wife was in an extremely fragile state, and you had a responsibility toward her to make sure she was not alone and had the safety and support of you by her side. Not the idiot. Your mom is being completely ridiculous, she's lacking empathy, and her behavior is disgusting. You have a new family that takes priority. Your wife just gave birth to twins and lost her mother. Either life change alone could be overwhelming, but she's dealing with both at the same time. Leaving your wife deep in grief to care for newborns alone would have been more egregious. For my 32 birthday, I always like one specific kind of cake, a chocolate-covered cherry cake. My mom or dad always made it for me since it wasn't one of the available flavors at any bakeries or stores near where we grew up. When I moved away, I started to make it myself. I've been married to my wife just under a year, but we've been together for 6 years, so she knows all about this cake. During that time, we've either baked it together, my parents made it, or I've made it on my own. I've never asked or expected her to do it. Before my birthday this year, my wife asked me what kind of cake I wanted. Same kind as always, but she told me she didn't feel like baking. I told her she didn't need to worry about baking it because I can just do it myself. She asked me a second time and I gave her the same answer. The day before my birthday, I get home from work and have all the ingredients to make my cake. Go to get something out of the fridge and there's a pair of cheesecakes in there with happy birthday written between them both. I asked my wife about it and she said those were the cakes for my party the next day, and she thought of switching things up this year since everyone loves cheesecake. I don't hate it, but she gets cheesecakes at least once a month. I only ever have the cherry cake on my birthday. I told her I appreciate it and they look good, but I really want the cake I like, so I was going to make mine and we'll just let everyone have a choice of what cake they want. She got pissed off and yelled that I ruined her attempt to make things easier on us by not having to bake and bringing cake that everyone would love. It's been 2 days since the party and she was cold at the party and is still acting cold. Usually I move mountains in heaven to give her the things she wants on her birthdays and celebrate how she wants. I just wanted one specific cake for mine. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, and it's weird for her to have even bothered asking what kind of cake you want if she was going to ignore you and choose her favorite cake instead. Also, I've never heard of a party being ruined by too much cake. That's patently absurd. Is she weirdly controlling about other things as well, or is this just because she doesn't like chocolate cherry cake? I don't get it. She got cheesecake because that is what she likes. That's not really the point when you're getting something for another person. Like if I'm buying a bottle of wine to gift a friend who prefers Pinot Noir, which I do not like, I'm not going to bring a Cabernet instead. Maybe in addition to, but not instead of. And her flipping out about it is total gaslighting. She wanted what she wanted and didn't want to bake. There was no reason that she couldn't get cheesecake too, but expecting you not to make your cake, a known tradition, is just nuts. Not the idiot. Your wife asked you, twice, and then deliberately disregarded your preference. She clearly likes cheesecake and figured she'd impose what she wants on your birthday. I get that she didn't feel like baking, that's her prerogative. But in that case, she should have just let you do what you'd said you would and bake the birthday cake yourself. She made a bad call. I'm 33, husband is same age. He loathes Thanksgiving, he's a picky eater and doesn't like any of the options served except turkey, but even then he insists that my family doesn't cook it right. He is NC with his side of the family except for his brothers, so him going to see his family is not an option. My sister recently moved closer, so this year Thanksgiving is being held at her new house. This is the only reason the holiday came up this early. I was showing him pictures of the house from the old Zillow listing and mentioned that I didn't want to overwhelm her by visiting so early and moving in, and that I'd just wait to see it for real at Thanksgiving. My husband grumbled something about having to attend and talk with my family. He is barely tolerant of my extended family, he doesn't like their conversation topics, saying they all talk about themselves, they only talk about old people things, they say the same things every year. As far as I know, they have never said anything rude to him personally, but he still isn't crazy about my side, and will just kind of hang out and talk to my dad or brother or play with my niece's nephews. Even if he did have a good conversation with my dad or played with my nephews, he will still complain about having to see people he doesn't care about and see all the gross food we all eat. It is so difficult to listen to year after year. After he complained for a bit, I told him to just not come for Thanksgiving if he hates it that much. He sees all the members of my family that he likes for Christmas anyway. He looked offended at my suggestion and asked if I didn't want his company. I told him I love him being around, but not when he's not having fun and is going to complain at the end. He said I hurt his feelings to even suggest that he not come with me to something he's invited to. I told him if he's not having fun at an event that he has no obligation to attend, he doesn't have to come. He still insists that he's hurt and that he thinks now that I don't want him there. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. He actively goes out of his way to ruin your day and walks around like there's a rain cloud over his head because of the heinous act of having to talk to your family that haven't done anything to him. Does nothing but complain and insults your family's food by calling it gross, but doesn't bother to bring any of his own. Not the idiot at all. OP. If he wants to act like he doesn't want to be there, then he shouldn't be. And honestly, it seems like him being NC with his family is probably his fault based on his behavior. He seems like the type to look for something to complain about. He sounds exhausting. Same old complaints, year after year. No wonder you don't want him there to ruin a, supposedly, nice gathering. It's sad that he doesn't care about your family. Does he like anything or anyone? He can't complain about not going after all he does is whinge about the events, people and food. To try and flip it around so that he's the victim of his own behavior is infuriating, unfair and exhausting. If he wants to come, he can't complain, unless something actually happens, and can bring his own food cooked correctly so he can't whinge. You should just tell him, no, actually I don't want you there. I briefly mentioned Thanksgiving and you already started complaining, and I can't go another year with you being miserable and making me feel bad for what I eat and for feeling like I forced you to be around my family. He doesn't get to say his feelings are hurt when you are just listening to the words coming out of his mouth and reacting appropriately. If my partner starts whining about something, I tell them not to do it, then end. I am in a group for disabled parents. The group is not for the parents of disabled children. It is for parents who have disabilities. While many of our members have children with disabilities, that is not why they are in the group. The purpose of the group is to have a support network of other parents with disabilities free of the stigma and condensation disabled people with children so often face. Last week a woman messaged our group about joining, and we gave her the information for our next meetup. At the meetup, she arrived with her son, who was in a wheelchair. He was a very sweet boy, and he played well with the other kids. The mother sat on her phone for most of the meetup and didn't participate much in our discussion topic. During one of our attempts to include her in the conversation, she did mention that she is not disabled in any way. I mentioned that this group is for disabled parents, and she responded that her son is disabled. That's not really relevant. We moved on, but at the end of the meetup we told her she couldn't be a member of the group, because it is a support group for parents with disabilities, and she isn't disabled. She was very offended and kept talking about her son. One of the other members explained that this group isn't for the kids, it's for the parents. There are play groups for disabled kids, but we are not that. Yes, our meetups are child-friendly, but that is for logistic reasons, because childcare is expensive. This group is our safe space, and she is intruding on it. She told us we were hypocritical C-words for excluding her son and left very upset. We feel bad, but also, this isn't a play group, it's a support group. Were we unfair? Not the idiot. She sounded incapable of understanding what you were trying to tell her. Based on your post, she doesn't seem to have understood that it wasn't disabled kids, but disabled parents. I don't think she was listening very well. There are people like that, and it's baffling. You can say something and they just somehow don't hear you or understand something you're saying. Not the idiot. I'm not sure where you are, but where I am there are playgroups for so many different purposes. Your group is entitled to your safe space. If she'd maybe shown genuine interest in your lives, then maybe you would have felt comfortable, maybe not, but she shouldn't have been shocked that she wasn't welcome. I think she misunderstands you on purpose, otherwise it doesn't make sense for her to bring up your group excluding her son when you already explained more than once that the group is for disabled parents. Maybe you could tell her that her son is free to join when he has children himself.